niching down to a place where you can speak with from a position of authority and your target audience can see themselves and what their end goal in you, I think is so important because it allows you to connect at that more authentic level and reach people at a different level.
This is why it's so important to have like a mentor wherever you're at in business, wherever you need help with.
They'll click your social profile. They'll go to your social. They'll see what you do. They'll see how many followers you have. They'll look at your engagement. They'll watch some of your content. Then they'll go back to your ad or get hit with a retargeting ad. Then they'll opt in onto a funnel. Then they'll maybe, get retargeted somewhere else. They'll go back and see some of your emails. So it becomes this convoluted mess that's happening.
Totally. But I'm curious. Actually, I wasn't planning on asking this, but I am curious. Do you think that the online coaching and marketing space has become so saturated that now we've created this like distrust
Oh,
for
100%.
buyers?
Yeah.
All right, friends, welcome back to another episode of the Social Audit. This is where we get real about marketing your coaching business. We talk about real marketing, real strategy with real coaches, and go behind the scenes with incredible people and entrepreneurs. But today's episode is a little different, and you are absolutely in for a treat. So I'm actually sitting down with someone who is not just in the marketing world, he builds the marketing world. This is Ben Sturtevant. He is a total marketing powerhouse, co-founder of Elite 360, and one of the brains behind some of the biggest client getting machines out there with Virtual CXO, a marketing agency for coaches, consultants, and agency owners. So today we're not doing a traditional audit. Instead, we are diving deep into the big picture stuff, how to make your organic marketing actually mean something, and how all of the pieces of your strategy should connect like a well-oiled machine. And yes, we'll probably also talk about AI and how you can utilize it to your advantage and not sound like a robot. So, Ben, I would love to turn it over to you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Angel. So glad to be here with you. So, as Angel said, my name is Ben Sturtevant. I've been in the digital marketing space since 2003. It's not what I went to school for. I actually went to school for physical therapy. Love what I was doing, but my wife and I live in a very expensive part of California, and she really wanted to be home with our kids. So I had to find another way to generate income. So I actually taught myself sales and digital marketing, got involved online, ran my very first Google pay-per-click ad in 2003. Leads were 50 cents and you could say whatever the heck you wanted in ads. It was easy. It was fun.
I think you
I
could
was
probably find that ad in a museum now somewhere.
I was getting email before we called them funnels in an app called Microsoft Front Page, which turned into Adobe Dreamweaver. That's how far back I go. And over the years, I became very successful, left my physical therapy career. My wife left her career in biology. She was a microbiologist. So she was able to be home with her kids. For many, many years, I had my own consulting business and marketing business. Eventually, I was introduced to a gentleman back in 2019 who was looking for initially just some consulting, and I came on board with him. He was doing about $2 million a year in revenue. And eventually I ended up taking a small stake in that company. We grew that to over 110 million over the next 5 years. Did very, very well with that company. And over that time, we worked with tens of thousands of coaches and consultants. And I would be involved in audits. And over time, I just got to the point where so many people were asking me the same questions. And I started to identify a real hole in the industry where business owners were very good at identifying what their clients needed and wanted and were able to coach them and fulfill that. They were great at selling because they really believed in their product, but they were all lacking a really strong marketing ecosystem. So a few years ago, I decided to get back into my consulting business, and that's where the virtual CXO came from. And it's been great. I'm able to pick and choose and work with whom I want, when I want, and help install my marketing ecosystem that I designed.
Nice. Ben, we've known each other for a while, and I feel like I just learned so much more about you in the last like 40 seconds. I had no idea you went to school for physical therapy, and I feel like that's such like a common trend with like online coaches and digital marketers and like everyone who's kind of moved into this space. I think typically has that same story. Like, I didn't study for this. It happened. So,
Totally self-taught. Yeah, a lot of classes and coaches and mentors and a
yeah,
lot of books read. Yeah, it was a journey for sure.
yeah, definitely. And you're California. Um, I'm from California and don't live there currently. So when we went to Dallas recently, I got in and out for sure. Oh my God, I miss it so much.
I'm not allowed to eat that anymore. My wife will let me.
Oh no, Carrie and I are gonna have a talk. That's awesome. Okay, so 2003, Ben, I have to admit to you, I was in high school in 2003. What? I was a sophomore in high school, I think. I was on the golf team in 2003 while you were running your funnel, your first non-funnel funnel. But I definitely like want to pick your brain today, if that's okay. Like I said, total powerhouse, a lot to bring to the table. If anybody gets anything from this show that I'm doing, like I hope they watch this episode because this is going to be insanely valuable. So I'm curious. Talked about pay-per-click, moving into digital marketing and that ecosystem, and I do want to get into building all of that. But first and foremost, how do you see organic marketing, right, as it is today, 2025? What's the role of organic marketing for a coach?
It's a difficult question because it really depends. It depends on where they're at. If someone has an existing audience and they've spent time building a relationship with that audience, and the audience is authentic, meaning they haven't paid for followers or viewers, or it's a great place to start. It's a great place to test and identify your offer. Whereas there are other people who are earlier on in the journey, or maybe they have the ability to invest in advertising, but don't have much of a social following. Organic then becomes more of a nurture tool. The two, though, are extremely vital and they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. Um, in some cases where people don't have a following, they don't have the money to invest in advertising and marketing, then they have to start with organic, and it's a great place to start. But obviously, eventually, it has to be a main part of the ecosystem. And what I mean by that is when people are opting in from ads, a lot of the time when people go to ads, they think they don't have to do organic anymore. It's the complete opposite. Your organic needs to increase and improve, because what's happening with ads very often is people will click on an ad, but they won't opt into the funnel. They won't buy what you're trying to sell. They're going to go look at your profile. There's a great article that Google put out about 4 years ago called The Messy Middle, if you just do a Google search for it. And basically what it identifies is this new customer journey that is taking place. Back in the day, it used to be very easy. You opt in on a funnel. And when I say back in the day, like 3 or 4 years ago,
Yeah.
you'd opt in on a funnel, you'd hit a page, you'd either buy something or you would schedule a call. And that was it. Now you'll see an ad. They won't even opt in on it because they don't trust you. They'll click your social profile. They'll go to your social. They'll see what you do. They'll see how many followers you have. They'll look at your engagement. They'll watch some of your content. Then they'll go back to your ad or get hit with a retargeting ad. Then they'll opt in onto a funnel. Then they'll maybe, get retargeted somewhere else. They'll go back and see some of your emails. So it becomes this convoluted mess that's happening. And organic plays such a big part of that. It really has to supplement what you're trying to market, and more importantly, who you're trying to market to. So if your offer and your organic are completely disconnected, you're hurting your sales. And more importantly, you're poisoning your advertising because you're attracting the wrong people. So the two are so important together.
Totally, and, like, the 7 touches, right? It's such a lie now. I mean, I think even, like, 6 years ago, there was a study that came out that said it's now, like, 22, and then I think someone told me recently, they were like, "I actually just saw something where it's, like, 104." Like, it's gotten insane, but I'm curious. Actually, I wasn't planning on asking this, but I am curious. Do you think that the online coaching and marketing space has become so saturated that now we've created this like distrust
Oh,
for
100%.
buyers?
Yeah, a lot of offers, not all. It really depends on the niche that you're in, but most offers have become commodities. And we absolutely have been guilty of it. The company that I was with prior, where you and I worked together, we literally had tens of thousands of coaches and consultants come through our program, and we taught them how to do this. And we are kind of a product of our own creation. And because there's so many coaches in all of the different spaces, very rarely is there anything new that someone can offer. So you have a lot of people following the same strategies. You have a lot of people following selling the same things there. And so there's really very rarely is there anything unique in the space. And this makes it really challenging because there's some really, really good consultants and coaches out there, and there's majority of it is just terrible. They don't know how to really fulfill their product. They don't know how to really help people. They don't know how to help people get results. So it does create a lot of that distrust. And that's why this messy middle is where it's at now. You have to work 10 times harder to acquire a client or a customer than you did. And I'm not talking about e-commerce as much as I'm talking about, coaching, consulting, that higher ticket space, 3K plus. You have to work so much harder to acquire a customer. In addition to that, because there's so much more competition, the costs to play, like the cost for advertising has gone up as well. So it is a really, really difficult time in the space for people. That's why my business is growing and doing very well. Well, because what you need is you need higher level strategy. You can't just go to ChatGPT and say, give me a lead magnet, right? Because everyone's doing that. You can't just go and say, write me an email, because everyone's doing that. And everything starts to sound the same. And when that happens, things become a commodity, and that's where the distrust comes from. So yeah, we have created it.
Totally. And it's also, I think that so many coaches, business coaches in particular, almost that's their selling point, is how easy it is to build your 6-7 figure coaching business. Like they make that their selling point in their marketing. And then, like you said, so many people can't fulfill it. So you have a ton of people trying to fulfill it, and then their businesses fall off because it's not easy. But just to kind of tie all that back into the organic marketing, because it is so saturated, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, it's so important to be yourself, because at the end of the day now, people are going to look at this, they're going to be like, well, I have 6 coaches who want to help me with this one thing. What are they going to do? They're going to pick the one they like. And how are they going to know if they like you? It's going to be your organic marketing, right?
There's a word, and it's authenticity. I see this not just with organic, but with paid ads as well. The paid ads that perform the best are the ones that look like organic, actual authentic posts. So less produced, more authentic, more behind the scenes is what people want to see, because they've seen for the last 3 years, they've seen the fake, they've seen the bro culture, and they're sick of it, right? They don't want it anymore. They want real people who are going to get them real results. And like I said before, that's the role that organic can play, is giving you the supplementation. If you're running ads, if you're spending a lot of money on ads, which eventually, if you're going to grow a business, you're going to have to do, you have to invest fully into organic as well. There is no paid versus organic. The two have to come together in order for you to truly nurture people the right way.
Yeah. And I definitely actually when I talk about it, I say hyper authenticity, because even now it's like people put on this front. It's like everyone's an actor. But I was listening to another training from another social coach, because yes, we're all still learning as entrepreneurs all the time. 11 years in the space for me, and I still learn from others. She said, lean into the hate. And it made me laugh, but she meant it in the sense of, you don't need to come on and be polarizing, but you do need to act with conviction and speak with conviction. Getting on and being like, I think this might work, and that this could be the best way for you. And, no one's going to buy that. And so it's like, you need to be able to say, hey, this is what I know. This is who I work with. This is how I help them. And this is how it works. And we're going to do it. And you're going to succeed. And you're going to have people that go, no way, that's not right. Blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not true. And you need to be okay with that. And I think that is where that authenticity and hyper authenticity, less curated, like, people just want to, work with someone who seems real, which is no surprise. So I'm definitely curious, what's the biggest mistake you think that you see, and how often do you see it when it does come down to the digital marketing and organic marketing?
Not enough. This is a really easy question to answer. 100% not enough focus put on your offer and the way you frame it. It's just it's that simple. And again, this kind of comes from the commoditization of the industry. People R&D, they rob and duplicate, right? They take someone else's offer, they go through someone else's coaching program, and then they launch their own. And then all they're doing is selling the same thing. And then they're saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. So you have all these little mini clones of all of these people who 5 years ago, 6 years ago were kind of the first in the space. And it it it's just people have become numb to it, right? I'm going to use a very specific example. One of the things that became very popular back in the fitness coaching space was how to eat what you want and lose weight, right? Without giving up your favorite foods. People to this day are still saying the same things, and they're frustrated because they can't get people to respond to their messaging on organic, or they can't get people to engage with their ads. And so it really comes down to being able to take something that, you know, you don't really have the room to do much else in that space. I'm just going to use the weight loss as an example, but you've got to be able to look at what you do and how you help people that might be the same as everyone else and reframe it in a way that connects with people at a different level. And I think this goes back to that hyper authenticity that you were talking about with organic. If you can hone in on your target audience and really focus on solving problems and reframe what you offer in a way that is unique, right? So it's really just as simple as the way you phrase it and what you call it, and giving it a sexy name and giving it a tribe or giving it a community can have a great impact. So it's the offer, just 100% focusing on how you frame the offer.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I would love it if you could speak to as far as offers go is niching down and how important you think that is. And I want to preface this by saying I actually just worked with someone who helps deck builders grow their business. Like, it's such a specific, when I tell you, I had no idea how lucrative that could be. Like, I help deck builders, and he did over like, I wish I knew the exact number. It was insane. He did like over 2 million last year helping deck builders. And I think people have this fear around niching down because they think it's going to like put them in a box. They're not going to be able to grow their business as much as they want to. So I would love it if you could like, what's your thought on that?
It's 100%, especially if you're in that 0 to 100K a month range, right? And I know that's a big range for a lot of people, but it is the most important thing that you can do. You've got to have a specific market that you can speak to. This goes back to exactly what I was just saying. The mistake that people make with their offer is trying to catch all, right? They try to catch everyone, when in reality, what you need to do is hone in. I'll take you through a very specific process because I'm working with a brand new client. I'm just onboarding him, and he's been bouncing around. He's in the fitness space, and he used to be the eat what you want, lose weight. Wasn't working. So he tried to switch to females and menopause. Great market, but he's not a woman. Yes, he's over 40, right? I came into him and I said, listen, tell me your story. I listened to what he's been through and his expertise, and he's 41 years old, in incredible shape, right? He's the ideal of what every 40-year-old man wants to look like, right? So I said, why are you not leaning into 40 men plus that are, their testosterone levels are down? It's basically the male version of menopause. And he's like, and all of a sudden now his focus has completely changed, his messaging, but just he's still doing the same coaching. He just made a slight focus in his target audience. People responding like crazy in his messaging. His social has skyrocketed again when it was in the dumps before. And all it took was just honing in on one specific thing that he could connect with, right? And I think this is when it comes to niching down, it's not just, can it be lucrative? Yes, you have to be able to make some money in it, right? So you don't want to niche down to teenage kids who play video games because they're broke, right? So that matters. But niching down to a place where you can speak from a position of authority, and your target audience can see themselves and what their end goal in you, I think is so important, because it allows you to connect at that more authentic level and reach people at a different level. But from an ad standpoint, in addition to organic, to me, it makes so much sense because it gives you the ability to speak directly to very specific problems and really draw a line in the sand, right? If you're this and dealing with this, I can help you with this. And then your content strategy becomes so much easier because you're just solving problems and you're just providing solutions and you're just connecting with the right people. And it allows you It allows you to get clarity organically with your paid traffic, and your lead quality becomes so much better. It's one of the biggest problems that I find is people reach out to me and say, "Oh, everyone I talk to is broke, and everyone I talk to is this, and everyone's crap, crap, crap." And that's because you're trying to go too broad. You're trying to focus on too big of an audience. So of course you're going to capture that lower quality traffic.
Yeah. And this is why it's so important to have like a mentor wherever you're at in business, wherever you need help with, like just, I find that story so interesting because he is living the life of his ideal client, but he wasn't able to see that like
Right.
from perspective wise. And they say, what, the colors kids don't have shoes. I'm so guilty of that.
Yeah.
I've been doing we've talked. I've been doing this for 11 years. You've been doing this for a long time. And I work with you and like we talk and you're like, why don't you try this on your social? I'm like, oh my God. Like I've been telling my clients to do this for 2.5 years. Why the heck haven't I thought to do it myself?
No.
So like having that outside perspective is really important too. So if that's something that anyone does not have yet, definitely find it because it's going to help you be more successful quicker.
Yep. Yep. It's the other set of eyeballs. Whenever I have my wife Carrie read over something for me, she always catches things that I don't, right? And she doesn't know anything about marketing. You know what I mean? But she'll read over if I'm going to do, a campaign of some kind, I'll have her read over the emails and she'll do. She just finds things. And it's so important to have that other set of eyes, 100%.
And just clarity too. I get kind of stuck sometimes. I know what I'm talking about. So I'll be like, that makes perfect sense. And then someone else will read it and they're like, I have no idea what you're trying to say. And it's like,
That's where
so
niching down can actually help you because
yeah,
by niching down, you really can speak their language. Like, you could, for example, let's say that you're a business executive and you work only with CFOs, right? And that's your market. You can use that techno babble. You can talk about balance sheets and, quarterly statements, and you can use that language. Whereas if you're trying to help anyone who wants to get better with their finances, you can't do that, right? Your ideal client is the CFO. And that's the mistake that people make, right? He was trying to use this general fitness. Everyone wants to lose weight. Yeah, sure. So by putting that out there, you're getting a lot of, you might be putting in front of that target audience that you want, but you're missing the mark because you're putting in front of so many other wrong people too.
yeah, good. Clean that up. We got to clean that up. Everyone in business, I think marketing is one of the first things that well, you're in it all day, Ben. I think you go into marketing. What's wrong with the business? Well, let's look at your marketing. Like it's one of the hardest things to do, but it's like the most important thing to do.
Yeah.
So with that being said, obviously we've talked about your ecosystem and I know how these things all work together, right? But there's a lot we've talked about already: organic, paid, funnels. We haven't even talked about emails. Like, how do you recommend if someone's building their business or struggling to acquire clients? Let's say they've got their offer in, they've niched down. At this point, they need to market it. How would you recommend they go about creating this ecosystem?
So you need traffic, right? Where your eyeball going to come from. If you don't have a social audience and you're going to have to run paid ads, then you're definitely going to need to start with some sort of attractive lead magnet that's going to allow you to get into your target audience at a broader level, which is less expensive. So what I mean by that is I'll stick with, we'll go with weight loss. I have another client. They were trying to run ads straight to a high ticket BSL. And that's like asking someone that you just met to get married, right? They wanted to go from, I have no idea who you are, to book a call. Never going to work. Really, really expensive cost per call, right? Someone who's early on in that journey and they're just now starting this process, probably a boosted post because it's a cheaper traffic. I would do a social post. Main focus of that post should be what's the biggest pain point your target audience is dealing with, and offering a solution. And that solution should be something, simple. So with this guy, what we did is we ran to a calorie quiz. Here's how to find out exactly what macros you should be hitting every day with your macro tracking. They fill it out. As soon as they fill it out, now they have the ability, after they opt in, they have a recommendation based on their score, what they should do next. And that took them through the next process, which is watching this video, which gave them a detail basically based on their score, which sent them to a call from there. So that allowed them to get people into the ecosystem. But from there, it was putting them in a community. I think that's probably the best thing you can do right now because trust is at such an all-time low in the industry. If all you did was create a community that had the ability for you to put some sort of whether it's a course or a lead magnet, a PDF of some kind. I prefer courses because it allows you to build authority and trust faster. Even if it's just a web or like a recorded webinar, but putting it inside a community like Circle.so or Skool or Mighty Network, something like that, putting it inside of that community where you can kind of control your your followers essentially. I look at communities as being kind of it's social 2.0, right? Or it's like the next level of social. And it's really what you're having to do in the ecosystem. I'd say your community is now more important than your email list. Because social communities now act as like your social following. You could do it in a Facebook group too, if you wanted to. Like don't overcomplicate it. I like the separate communities because it gives you a little bit more control. But it's really becoming the most important thing that you can do to start nurturing quicker through the process.
I kinda look at these communities, I don't Ben, when you were a teenager, so long ago. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But, we would go, like, hang out in our friends' garages. Like, literally just hang out in the garage. I don't know, that's what we did. But that's kinda how I see the communities, and it all kinda ties back to that hyper authenticity, right? This is where you're not hard selling to your audience, but you are hanging out with them. You're getting a little closer to them. You're courting them in a way, but they're getting tremendous value from it as well, right? Or when you go to a new school or start a new job, you kinda meet and you kinda start easing into this circle of existing people, and that's how I see the communities now, and I think people, for the majority of us, especially with Gmail, I mean, all these emails just land in the promotions tab now anyway, so
Don't get me wrong. Email is part. I mean, there's so many different. I mean, there's communities, there's emails. You need to be doing webinars. You should be having DM conversations. You should be having, should be doing reoffers every month. There's so many parts of the marketing ecosystem that you need to do. But you're absolutely right. Communities are where it's at because it allows you to do two things. Number one, build trust because you're giving away good content. And side note here, you should never be afraid to give away some of your best content for absolutely free. That's especially true, and you know this from working with people organically. They're so afraid. Well, I don't want to. That's what's in my program. Just post it, right? Put it out there. Give away your best strategies because they still need that one-to-one help to get them there, right?
yeah. It was basically building that trust. You talk about the what. It's like, I will give you the what, and I think people need to reframe how they look at giving away this type of value. You're not saying, "Here's everything you gotta do. You're welcome." You're saying, "Here's what needs to be done, but if you want the how, that's where I come in." And so I think reframing how people share that value and what it means to actually share that value in content, is really important because I think that's where people get, like, nervous. They're like, "Well, why would they work with me?" You know? Well, they're gonna I think I did a post one time that was like, "Well, you know what, babe? They're gonna get it for free on YouTube anyway. Like, it might as well be from you so they can get to know you and that you know what you're talking about, and then once they start to try to implement it and they have questions, they know where to go." And so I just wanted to kinda make that note because I think it's really important, and it's a really difficult mindset block for a lot of people to get around.
No, you're absolutely right, and it leads to the second thing you just mentioned it, which is trust is part of it, right? But the other part is the authority, right? Can they see that you're going to be able to help them, right? And by them being in your community and by you posting on social, like I said, organic is part of social, or I mean, it's part of nurture. Like what you're posting there, what you're posting in your community, you've got to hit people at all these different areas. But you want them when the timing is right. And everyone who's watching this, who's ever been on a sales call before, you've said all the right things, you have the perfect prospect, and you've done everything right, perfect sales call, and they should have closed and they don't. And that's because the timing wasn't right. Doesn't matter what you did. If the timing's not right, they're not going to join. And this is why I track and I teach my clients to track their time to conversion or time to close window. So it's the time that they opt in to the time that they close. And some of the biggest clients that are out there, it's 30 to 90 days. You don't, I cannot stress that enough. And sometimes even longer. The client that you and I worked with before, we would have on average like 128 days. That's 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
One opts in 4 months
Crazy.
later. Now, granted, that's a pretty expensive product, but still, what it shows you is that people don't just come in and buy, right? They come in, they learn, they're sure they don't trust. So you've got to build that trust, and they've got to see you helping other people. They've got to see the case studies. They got to see you spending the time and answering the questions. But here's the reality, Angel, that I think we've gotten into in the coaching space. And I think you mentioned it earlier, where we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot because there's so many gurus out there saying that it's easy, right? Oh, all you have to do is do this, right? Here's the magical, you know, mystical funnel that's going to convert buyers, or leads into buyers, and you're going to make $1 million in a month. It's just not realistic. It just takes a lot of work. Now, the better your offer is, and what I mean by that is the bluer the ocean, if it's priced perfectly, the timing in the industry, there's some luck that goes into a lot of this for a lot of people. Then it gets easier. And I see that with some clients that have really, really good, good offers, great price point. The timing is perfect. And I've seen it through history. I've been in this space 20 years, and it's the same thing over and over again. But the people who struggle are the ones that they don't understand that it's supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it, and everyone would do it well, and there'd be no opportunity. So what I always tell people is embrace it. Like, that's great that it's hard, but you're going to have to work harder than most people will.
Absolutely. Oh gosh, it's so important. And I'm curious, you brought something up interesting a few times, and timing, right? Timing. So from a marketing standpoint, right? Anyone watching this right now is probably like, oh my God, I have to do what? I need to do social and organic, and I need to do paid, and I need a lead magnet, and I need a community. Like, that's a lot, right? But timing, when it comes to your offer, can be such a small window sometimes. So as far as offers go, what do you see trending upward right now for anyone who's creating an offer? And where would you suggest they start in the marketing? I know what I think. I think it's organic social media and those small paids like we talked about. But again, it can feel like a lot of moving pieces. So what do you see trending right now as far as timing for offers, and where should someone start if they wanted to launch, say, in like a week?
So in the health space, it's hormone related, so men and women, because you've got two really big markets right now, and there's two reasons behind it. One is obviously they're aging, right? So you've got the baby boomers, and then you've got my generation, Generation X, right, which are in their 40s to 60s, right? I'm 47, so women are going through perimenopause, menopause, and that lasts a long time. And then you've got the baby boomers who are older. They obviously their bodies don't work the way that they used to when they were younger. So it's catering to that market. And then men on the same side, it's testosterone. You see a lot of, if you're a man that's over 40, you see a ton, or even over 30 now, a ton of ads from companies like Hims, Row.co, right? All of these hair replacement companies, ED companies. It's a huge market, right? Because it's a problem. People have a specific pain point, a specific problem. And the conversation around for women, especially in the health space, it's become really, really easy to have conversations say, hey, you have kind of an us versus them. It's not your fault. It's your hormones. You can eat all the great foods, but you can still not lose your weight. And we have a solution to help get your hormones in check, right? It's a very easy conversation to have because it's a newer conversation versus, lose weight, eat what you want. So calories in versus calories out. Because for women that have hormone issues, it doesn't work that way, right? They can have less calories in and burn more and still not reach their goals. So that's a
I've
huge
actually
approach.
seen coaches flip. I've seen them flip. I've followed coaches for a long time in this space that are like, it's calorie. If you consume less calories than you burn, you'll lose weight. That's just the way it works. And now 5, 6, 7 years later, they're like, hey, calorie deficit is not the only way to lose weight, especially if you're perimenopause, right? So like I've seen that flip actually now that you mention it.
The thing is, it's for someone who's never had success dieting and they're extremely overweight, the calories in versus calorie out will have a great impact. But it's the long term. It's why the yo-yo diets, where they come from, is that's not sustainable because eventually your metabolism slows down. So that's why you see a shift in the market where uh I'm not the thinnest person in the world, but I work with a lot of these people and I know what's working in advertising and marketing, which is why I'm talking about this, because it could help someone. And it can help you think differently no matter what your offer is. And what I mean by that is you've got to you really need to know your market. You need to know who you're trying to reach and really what they're dealing with. Right. So for me, it was very easy because I looked at a lot of the fitness coaches that I work with, and their clients will come in, they'll get them on a calorie deficit, they'll get them moving for the first time in their life, and they get some results. Great. But then their metabolism slows down because it comes down to match their calorie deficit they're in. And now they have to work out twice as hard. And it's this never ending. It's why people can't stick with it. It's not sustainable. So I said, well, what's going on? Like, I didn't know. Right. I talked to the experts I work with. She's like, well, it's a hormone issue. Obviously there's hormonal changes they're having too. I'm like, okay, well, let's market that. And boom. Right. And so that's one big space. And that's men and women in the health space. In the B2B space, AI, it's the biggest trend. Anything that you can do on AI. So I run it's a go high level white label called Elite 360, and we have a lot of AI features that are into it. We've also built some custom AI, so conversational AI bots, having things have conversations for you, automations, having things work for you. That's really big in the space right now. But it's not just the bot that's selling, it's the implementation. And that's what people pay really good money for, is for you to come into their business and build them a system that potentially could replace their setters or messengers, right? So that's really big in the B2B space. And then of course, you've got your e-commerce space, and from there, it's everywhere. It doesn't really matter the product, but what I see working really, really well in the e-commerce space from a marketing standpoint, and this is true on organic too, is the use of UGC. So user generated content, right? Working with influencers, collaboration, even the IG shout out strategy still works in that space. Especially if you're trying to grow your organic, just be careful with that. But, and those are the trends. I mean, it's really the, the relationship space. There's still a lot of play in that. The problem with it is just, it's so overloaded with people. It's kind of like the fitness space. You have to find a different conversation for sure and niche down. I did an audit the other day for a woman who, this is niching down. She doesn't just help people with dating or relationship issues. She focuses on betrayal. So people have been through a situation of betrayal. She does $150,000 a month in revenue.
Wow. That makes it sad.
It pulls but there's a massive lesson there for anyone who's trying to understand how marketing really works.
Uh-huh.
And it's not about manipulating people. It's about taking your product that you believe in and being passionate about helping people get a transformation. So she's taking people who are they're going through a really difficult time, and she's holding their hand through this process. And it's not an overnight fix. So it takes time, and they're in so much pain that they're willing to pay for it. And it's very similar to people who are they're extremely overweight, who are willing to, they've reached the timing is right for them to commit to it, and they're willing to see it through. And if you present it to them the right way, as if you identify with what they're going through, it becomes very easy to help them.
Yeah. And I will say, as a parent, Ben, I know you have kids too, but I'm sure you can agree that like moms and dads have different struggles when it comes to raising kids and trying to be, a motivated, successful entrepreneur, and or any goal in general. And just to speak to that point, as a mom, I tend to trust other moms. So for like weight loss, I actually worked with a coach myself a few years ago before I got pregnant again. But what's really cool is that she has 3 kids also. So I knew like, okay, when I was 22, like I lived off of Top Ramen and like 99 bananas and I looked great, right? Like, but in my mid to late 30s with 2 kids, it's just a different story. And so obviously I was going to choose someone who felt similar to me and could understand those pain points. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that in the sense of, look, I've worked with B2B, right? These are the high ticket gospel, health, wealth, and relationships, right? Those are your 3 high ticket offer categories. And the health is huge. The wealth is huge. So health is like your fitness coaches, your health coaches, your hormones, your menopause coaches, all these things. Right, speaks for itself. The wealth are the business coaches, the marketing coaches, the finance coaches, like all of these people, and then relationships, and that's love, marriage, almost like counseling, I guess you could say, depending on the situation. Now, working with all 3 of these people, I could say health and wealth typically have the most success. So I think if anyone's thinking about being a relationship coach, this is definitely a story to learn from because you do need to find your market. And Ben, I love what you said, and you've said this to me in the past when we talked about my offer. Imposter syndrome can take a hold of you when you're trying to market and you start to feel like, well, wait, do I know what I'm talking about? Am I qualified to do this? And being able to market yourself in a way to people who need your help, especially in a vulnerable space, is tough. It's really, really tough. So finding your own mindset is going to be really important in saying, look, you said, I should just let you say it. I think you told me that it's like, you have an obligation to help the people who need help. And it was so transformative. And I'm not a person who uses the word transformative very often. But I think that that's really, really important to understand when going into your own marketing. I love that story. I can't believe 150K. Oh, God, Ben, that makes me want to cry. You know that scene in Enchanted? Have you seen Enchanted?
Who?
Giselle comes to life and she finds out about divorce and she's like sobbing. Like, that's me. It makes me so sad. But I love that she's able to help so many people and she's found a way to be able to do that. So
Right.
I don't even remember where we were. I got so sidetracked. But let's talk about B2C. I don't know. In my opinion, like fitness, the health space is so much more lucrative than the B2B. Only because I noticed with coaching, there are these trends, like everyone's doing well, and then there's a dip, and it's all of us kind of moving together through these seasons. So when we hit this dip and you're marketing to other coaches, like no one's coming from you, and then everything has to start moving up. So I definitely feel like I can see the differences in the seasons from, the health to the wealth space, but I do still want to go into the B2B stuff and talk about AI. I think that's going to be really, really important because people have an ethical issue with AI. So how do you see that working in marketing? I know you're using it in Elite 360, but as a whole, like, what do you think the role of AI is in marketing?
I call it supplementation. I don't think you should buy into the people who are selling complete automation. Get yourself, replace your entire business and all of your staff with AI. I don't believe in that at all.
I've tried something like that for fun. It didn't work.
It won't work long term either
Mhm.
because, like everything, the consumer, whether it's B2C, B2B, doesn't matter, the consumer becomes aware and they'll start to identify what's a bot, what's not a bot. ManyChat went through this, but because they were kind of one of the first to offer kind of the automated take yourself through a journey kind of a thing with messaging. And eventually people caught on to it and they stopped responding to it. Right. And the same thing will happen with AI. Like there are automatic AI bots and, so self call booking bots and things like that. And it will become so saturated because everyone can do it. It will become extremely disingenuous, unauthentic, whatever you want to call it. But where it does have its place is the supplementation of a team. So for example, in Elite 360, we have something called suggestive reply. So instead of automatically replying, a person can come to our website, fill out the web chat widget, ask a question, and our messenger can respond to they can manually type something out, or they can look at the suggestive response and immediately hit it if it's what they want to do, or they could adjust it. So that immediately might not seem like a big deal, but it might save them a couple of minutes, right? Which over an 8-hour shift could save them a half an hour, right? Which over a week could save them 3 hours worth of time, right? Which you see what I'm saying? Like, that's where the little minutia starts to add up over time for businesses. That's just one example. There are some
Well, I
situations
was thinking
where
if you're of overseas team, like if you have an overseas team too, that could be really helpful depending on the strength of the language that they're working in. So,
100%. So it's accuracy. There are other things too. Obviously, I use it for a lot of things like email and page copy, but that requires a lot of human training to do it properly. So you're not relying just on, AI, right? Like to use AI properly, there's still humans involved. But that's the supplementation where I can train, Claude with my target audience, with my language, and I can literally train it to be exactly who I want it to be, and then feed it a prompt and have it save me time. But a human has to implement that, right? So
for now,
I see it in
for
so many different areas for now.
yeah,
Right, right. Yeah.
for now.
But it has to happen, right? Like people need to adopt it. You need, if you don't, you're not going to be able to pivot and move fast enough. And that's something for business owners to be aware of. They have to be able to accept that AI is here, it's a thing. And if you don't know how to implement it, you need to seek out people who can help you implement it. So this goes back to what I was saying before about, what kind of the next trends in coaching, so to speak. It's not just coaching, it's implementation, right? If you are looking for a space that's sort of a blue ocean right now, it's learn AI and learn how to come in and help implement it into businesses, and you can do really, really well.
And I think it's going to be important too, from a marketing standpoint, to be able to challenge the AI objection. I know I've felt it in social marketing. Well, I could just go into ChatGPT and it could just make me posts, right, or make me a plan. Or I think health coaches have gotten it too. I could just go in and tell it I'm eating this many calories, make me like. Yes, AI has these capabilities, but at the end of the day, AI doesn't know your business. It doesn't know what you're trying to achieve. It doesn't know where you're at. It doesn't know where your clients are at. And so from a social marketing standpoint, I really like to use AI as like a planning tool, as opposed to a full social tool. So I have a GPT that I've actually trained that I using in my program when I help people. And what it does is it allows you to continue to have the flexibility within your strategy and guidance, and coaching in your strategy. But then this, again, it saves you time. So you outline what you're trying to do and achieve under your strategy, and then you plug it in content wise, and it will give you media type ideas and subject matter ideas to plan out your weeks. So it definitely is. I mean, it's 50-50. I don't want to say AI does the heavy lifting because the human brain is still so powerful, and it is what's going to set you apart in your marketing. I mean, there's already memes, right? Like if I see an M dash, I know it's AI, which is sad for me because I love M dashes. But it's like if I see this, I know it's AI. When I look at a caption, I automatically know it's AI, and the audience does too. They're already skeptical. Like we don't need to make it worse, right? So,
Will get
um,
worse. That's the thing.
yeah. Oh, and it's so sad. And AI does a lot of fun stuff. Like it does fun stuff that you can use in your marketing. I made cartoons for one client. He didn't like them, and it made me really sad because I thought they were fantastic. But it can do a lot of fun stuff to help in your marketing. So I really like that. AI is supplemental, but it is a system that needs to be implemented so that you can continue to work effectively.
Yeah, and Angel, at the same, like I have 2 Pixar styled cartoon ads that are running right now that are doing extremely well. I get a lot of hate from graphic artists and designers because they know it's AI, and I get it. But the reason that they do well isn't because they're AI. They do well because the picture represent what it represents and what it says on the ad connects with the audience. That's the most important thing. And as good as ChatGPT or AI gets, it's it becomes more important than ever for you to know your audience so that you can program it properly. You might not know the exact words to say, but you need to know how to prompt it, right? And so that's what I'm saying. It's supplemental, but the human being is what is going to yield the result, not ChatGPT, not the AI. It's the human being. And that's why you really need to know who your audience is, what their pain points are, what they're struggling with, and what you're trying to help them accomplish. And then you can use the supplementation of AI to help you get out exactly what you're trying to say.
Absolutely. I think we might be setting off a lot of copywriters, graphic designers here with this conversation. But it's, you either I get it. It's almost it's like you either adopt it or get left behind. That's how I look at it. I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to use this in my business and help other people use it in their business, or I'm not going to have a business. And I think that
I
that's
I attended this mastermind not too long ago back in Dallas last week,
Mm.
and this is a great example of adoption. Here, a photographer, like an in-person photographer who had been doing it for 15 years. She initially hated AI because it was a threat to her business, right? You can go into Dreamweaver and produce some incredible photography without anything. But instead of her fighting against it, what she did is she took her unique skills. Like she was talking to me about like lenses and aperture and all these crazy things. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Right. I just go into Dreamweaver or not Dreamweaver, Midjourney, excuse me. And I just say, I want an image that looks like this. Right. But she figured out a way to prompt it with like the lens, like I want it with this lens and F lens and like aperture here. And her images that she was able to produce were insane. And that's my point is like graphic designers, even copywriters, they know if they can learn prompt engineering,
uh-huh.
they can speak a language that most
Mm.
people will never because they have an expertise
Yeah.
that most people don't. And that's,
Mm.
I wish people would stop fighting it. You know, it is the wild west where I have a tremendous amount of frustration and I have a tremendous amount of empathy are for the people whose original content that AI is pulling from, that they're not getting royalties from, that they're not getting any recognition from. That's a problem. But it's the Wild West right now. Probably 10 years from now, you, you know, um, you know how they have Google Images, for example, and technically you're not supposed to use someone's image that they have on Google without authorization. I think that's probably where AI is going to be 10 years from now. You know, when you do a search with AI, like Perplexity or something, and it's doing deep research, and it comes back with the sources, like you're not going to be able to use that without that creator either being mentioned or credited or rewarded somehow.
I could see that happening because it's already when I want to create things, I utilize ChatGPT a lot. And if I want to create an image, my daughter and I like to sit there and create images. We're just burning through energy making pictures of little girls and unicorns. But she wanted like a picture of Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls doing something. And it's already telling me I can't do that. ChatGPT is already saying that goes against our content policies. So I can totally see them implementing something like that. Um, but it is, gosh, it's incredible. And the trends that people are doing, like the most recent one was like the action figure that people were making of themselves. I can't tell you how badly I want to do those trends, but AI has no idea what I look like. And it's so frustrating. So I'll upload a photo and do it for like a client or someone else who wants to, be on board. And it comes out so good. And then I give it my picture. And at one time I got so mad and I was like, stop being stupid. And my husband was like, please don't talk to the robots like that. I was like so mad. And I'm like, stop. Here's like 10 pictures of me. Please make this. And it comes back with something totally, I'm like, it just doesn't know
Well,
what I look like. And it makes me sad.
yeah,
It's totally off topic, but
for sure.
I think Diamond Alien or something. I don't know what's going on, but it is getting incredible in adoption. And I would even say we're still in early adoption. Like it
Oh,
feels like
yeah.
it's all over the place, but oh my gosh, we're so early.
I don't know if you were old enough to remember this, but I was a freshman in college in 1995 when the internet like first came out, and we were required in our dorms to have computers and internet. That's where we are. Like it's like literally the first year of internet, and look how far we've come. And it's scary. Yeah, I know people sometimes are against regulation, but there's going to need to be some serious oversight and regulation involved with AI. Like especially voice AI. Like it's scary. There's
Mhm.
a lot of
Oh,
fraud.
and deep fake and
Oh, yeah, it's just crazy. So
yeah.
that's where we are. Like we're 1995 with you.
Well, and then these, you know what? Actually, even further, what year was it? Many, many years ago in Germany, I just heard this story that they would hand make clothes, right? Like sweaters. And someone got like a loom and they started making clothes that way. And like hundreds of years ago, obviously. And they were like, nah, this is not natural. And they like gathered all the looms and like burned them because it was like not. And it's seriously how it feels. It's almost like AI is the brunt of the witch hunt at this point.
Yeah. It gets a lot
But
of
now,
you wouldn't believe the negativity that I get in those ads.
oh, I'm sure. Oh, I would believe it.
Mm.
I will say this too for all coaches, like marketing. Thicken your skin. If it's not thick, thicken it because of that skepticism that we're experiencing right now. Everything. Ah, you're a scam, you're this, you're that. This is how could you do that? So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Oh my gosh. I mean, there was something else. 1995. Oh, when I was in high school and even when I was first in college, when we did research papers, we were only allowed to use 3 internet sources. The rest had to be physical books. Like, that's what that reminded me of. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, because I do everything on the internet."
School would have been a lot easier, but I would not want to have gone through my teenage years with social media.
God, no. That Sal, I spent a lot of my time in the back room of the theater classroom or in the library, like, eating and, like, reading Harry Potter, like, that was my and the last thing I need is someone being like, zooming in on me on TikTok, "She's alone again. Doesn't she have any friends?" I'm like, "Look, my one friend is sick today." "No, I don't."
Or yes.
Oh my
I'm,
gosh,
I'm
okay.
my daughter's 18 and she's on the tail. She missed it, we thank God, but she still got a little
Mm.
bit of it. But yeah, she made it past it.
Oh, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. My kid can't have a smartphone until she can drive, even then.
But so smart. I wish I.
But, you know, they're getting smarter, so the baby was up sick the other night, like, physically ill, vomiting, and my daughter, she has an iPad, she's 7, she has an iPad, and she texts me and her grandparents on it, like, that's because of the, like, iMessage, and so the baby and I went back to sleep in the morning, and I woke up to a text message from her iPad, and it was a GIF of a baby throwing up, and she was like, "That's Logan." That's her little sister's name. She sends me this GIF, and she's like, "That's Logan," and I'm like, "How do you know how to text already?" Like, this is like this is how I text my friends, like, how did you figure this out? And that's we're totally off topic, that scares me too,
It
like,
happens fast. It happens fast for sure.
oh my gosh, I could not believe it, but I definitely wanna circling back, Ben. Um, I think we've talked a lot. I think we've covered a lot of things, but obviously things have changed so much in, like, the last 3 years, like we mentioned. What do you see happening in the next 3 years? Like, how can we future-proof our businesses right now?
Well, there's no such thing with marketing. It's everything's cyclical, right? So 10 years ago, funnels were like the rage, and then they had a good 5-year run where it was like funnel, 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 really simple opt-in lead magnets. People could opt in, buy, like we were talking about earlier, and it was easier, right? And webinars had died at that point. Funnels kind of took over from webinars. Now, what I'm seeing is webinars are back. And why? Right? Because it's one to many, it's live. And I'm not talking about the fake automated ones. I'm talking about live webinars. People are using them on the back end of their communities every other week. They're doing master classes live. It's real value. It's one to many, builds trust, builds authority very quick. And they're working again. The other thing that's coming back is low ticket. Low ticket had died a few years ago. No one, why do low ticket? Go straight to high ticket. The trust is gone. So you need to, remember the old ClickFunnels ascension ladder, right? It's back. And it's not that it ever completely went away. It's just people stopped doing it. So the people who kept doing it had a tremendous amount of success and now are thriving. So I see that happening a lot. People going back to low ticket. And eventually we'll be able to go back straight to high ticket again. So that's, there is no way to future-proof your business. The way to future-proof is to be flexible and adaptable. A client that I'm working with, one I was telling you about right now, she's working with menopause. She didn't always do that. She worked with women who wanted to lose weight, younger, right? And that's because she was younger and now she's a little older, right? But she pivoted and invested a tremendous amount of her time and energy to get certified with menopause, to educate herself and to change. And that's the way you future-proof your business, is you evolve. I'll use myself as an example. I don't do the same things that I did 20 years ago. The principles are similar, but the way that we go about doing it, the technology, you have to adapt. And if you don't, you die. You will fade away. One of our previous clients that we worked with together had a very successful business, but was not willing to change, did not want to adapt, didn't want to change his message, didn't want to invest the time. That's how you kill a brand. That's exactly what he did. He drove it into the ground.
That's sad too. A lot of sadness today. But it also comes back to God, I feel like somebody can make a drinking game out of this, because it's like we talk authenticity, but it's so true. And maintaining your authenticity in your marketing is what's going to allow you to successfully be flexible moving forward. Because if one of these clients, per se, she didn't used to do menopause and now she does, without authenticity in her online presence and her marketing and how she showcased her knowledge and her skills, that wouldn't be believable. That would be like, oh, well, now she does something totally different. I don't know. I guess she makes more money. Right. And it's like automatically people put this up. But if you're authentic and you go, you know what? Like, again, I think moms do this too. Like I work with a coach who helps, I worked with a coach and helped her with her content who helps women in business. And one of her more recent messages was, you have the 20-year-old coaches who say, well, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And then you have the women in their 40s going, the F we do, like, but being able to take her business from when she was that person and grow with her clients to who she is now, it all comes back to how she positioned herself. It was never chasing the money. It was never scummy. It was that obligation to help people. I had this realization, Ben, like, I want to say probably like a month ago, that most coaches in their marketing need to speak to the person that they needed 5 years ago. Like, depending on obviously what you're marketing. But I think it holds true for most coaches, because you don't have to know everything. You just need to know more than the people you're helping, right? So I look back, marketing is still the hardest part of my business. I can help other people easy, but for me, it's hard, from an inside perspective. And I go, I'm raising kids, I'm doing this. Well, what did I need to hear 5 years ago? I need someone who understood those struggles and could help me implement a system that fit in my life. So what does my program target now? Moms who need a marketing system, an organic marketing system that fits in their life. And health coaches, you've lost 40 pounds, this hypothetical coach. What did you need to hear 5 years ago? And I think that was such a powerful realization that I wish more coaches realized, because it would stop making them feel like they need to chase the scale and the growth and everything. And they could just, be in their business and actually enjoy it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think what you said was really powerful there. It's one of the first questions that I ask potential clients when I get on the phone with them, which is, what do you want? What's your goal here? And you'd be surprised. Most people don't know. Like they have a dollar amount, but they don't understand why, right? And once you connect with that, whatever your true motivating factor is, like in my days when I first got started, I was working in physical therapy full time, and then I had a part time side hustle that I would come home to. The last thing I wanted to do was work more, but I had a really strong reason. You know what I mean? I had something pushing me. All it took was my wife was pregnant with Caleb, my son, and all it took was me looking at her and her belly starting to grow, and it's like, crap, it's what pushed me to do it. And that's business owners need to find that motivating factor, and it's got to be more than just money. Um, Most of the people who are after it for just money don't typically make it long term. They just don't, or they're the ones that were doing coaching and now are completely something just totally random, different. You know what I mean? And they'll continue to do that throughout their life. They'll just jump from one thing to the other. But like you said, if you authentically care about helping people, it's not that difficult as long as you can speak to what they're dealing with, and you said it. If you know where they were or where they are based on where you were, you're going to be able to convert with your story. And that should be a majority of your content and your ads too. For those of you, I every ad that we have running, we test it on social first, on organic first. Every single one. And I wouldn't do it any other way. And it's because they perform well on organic that they do well with ads, because they're connect with the right audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not hard.
It's not rocket science. I mean, it
No.
takes time. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes sometimes a lot of time, more time than you want. But at the end of the day, I usually tell people, I don't give a crap if 4,000 people liked your post, if not a single one of them is your ideal client. I do give a crap if one person liked your post and they are now ready to book a call with you. Like, so just,
As long as
I
it
wish
wasn't
more
mom.
people knew that. As long as it wasn't mom. Bish, she's gonna book a call with me and give me some money though. Maybe I'll still entertain it.
Actually.
So just to kinda close this out, Ben, I think we've covered a lot today. I think this is super helpful. So thank you for everything. I feel like I need to pay you now. I'm like, dang, I learned a lot today. But I am curious of just a couple more things. I would just love your opinion on marketing myths. Like, there's a lot of them, but what's your favorite?
Most of marketing is failure. About 80% of what you're going to try is going to fail. So I think I don't know if that's a myth, but I think it's a misunderstanding. People think that they're going to be able to launch an ad or they're going to put a post out and it's going to get great results. Most of them don't. Very rarely do they do. And so you've got to be willing to fail. I think the other is that um, if anyone can do it, I can do it. That's a myth. There are people who are chasing success in offers that are never going to have success in that offer because they're not at the right time. They're not the right person. They don't have the right personality. And let's be real. There's differences between people. Some people should be business owners. Some people should not. Right. And so that's a pretty big myth in the industry, is that anyone can do it. That's not true. And I know that's hard for some people to hear because you're really trying to focus and trying to push through those tough times. Now, by no means does that mean you should stop. Okay. It just means you might have to evolve into what kind of business you're going to build. I'll give you a very specific example. The gentleman that we worked with before looked a very certain way, right? Perfect for video, great on screen, model, had all of the background for a fitness offer, right? This person also came onto the industry at the perfect time in history where COVID had hit, and he worked just with personal trainers who had nowhere to go because their gyms were closed. So they had to go online. What do you think happened to his business? It exploded, right? So that's the timing factor, right? But what came after that were a lot of people who were trying to duplicate the results, and they weren't as good on camera. They didn't quite speak the same way. They couldn't quite be as effective with their VSLs and their videos. And the timing was much later when everyone was going back into the gym, right? And so, or like their clients were going back into the gym, right? People were excited to go back instead of doing online coaching. You know what I mean? So it's just an example of that myth that uh, because one person did it, everybody can. That's not entirely true because you might not know the entire picture. It just means you have to find your way. You can still make it work, but just trying to duplicate someone else isn't always going to be the best solution. Um, what else is there? I mean, there's a lot of them. The 80% thing is most of the business owners that I I think there's this myth that if it's not successful in 7 days, then it's never gonna work. This is a big misunderstanding. At least this relates more to paid ads, though, than organic traffic. And it's hard because people are spending money on something and they don't see immediate results, but they don't understand this conversion window concept. And so, 5 years ago, you could put $1 in and get $2 out within 3 or 4 days. Doesn't work
Not
like
anymore.
Do anymore.
now. It's
Yeah.
like 30 to 90 days. And that's really, really hard for people to understand.
The 80% rule is so important, even on social. Just to come from it from that standpoint, I can't tell you how many times I talk to people and they're like, I spent 7 hours editing this stupid reel and it got like 6 likes and no comments and XYZ. And then, I'll be like, okay, well, do me a favor. Like, next time you leave your house, take a picture of yourself and post it with whatever you said in that reel as the caption. Type it out, make it the caption. And it like does better. It does better by like 8 times. And it's always that kind of like, I'm against this. I want to be very clear. Please don't have like these, oh crap, I forgot to post today moments. Like I need to just put something up. But it will likely, like, you would be surprised how much better those types of posts do. And so I wish more people understood that organic social was that testing arena, man. Like, you're going to have one post go viral and then your next post is going to get 3 likes. And it just is what it is. That doesn't matter. And I wish more people knew that. This is for testing. This is for content. This is for connection. Doesn't matter. These vanity metrics don't actually matter.
Yeah, and
Um,
nurture too. But don't forget, there's people
mhm,
who are researching you,
mhm,
right? They're coming there to learn about how you're going to help them. That's a lot of
mhm.
what social is. People who are trying to build a business, and you have to embrace that, and understand that, and speak like the way I look at social, the way I want my clients to do social. So please disagree with me if you feel otherwise, but the way I want them to do it is I want them to talk as if they're talking to one person, to their ideal person. They're having a conversation with them, and that content will resonate more with them. It might not be, the viral haha, share it with a million people, but this is the disconnect, I think, between social and paid traffic in the marketing world for coaches. You've got to decide, do you want to go viral and make a little bit of and have the followers and get the check mark, or if you're on like YouTube, you get the plaque, right? Or do you want to build a business? And I think Alex Hormozy did a post about this because he used to chase the vanity metrics. He used to chase the likes and the follows, but those are kind of dead now because they don't matter as much. What matters for coaches is authentic conversations and booked calls, people showing up for call. And the way that you get that is by providing real value and solving and addressing real pain and emotions and things that people are struggling with and talking to them like they're a normal human being. That's why I said, have a one-to-one conversation, you know what I mean, with people, and watch what will happen to your engagement. And that's what at the end of the day, and you know this, the social platforms want you on their platform for longer. So make content that keeps them there. Yes, you've got to get them there. right? So we're talking about different things. Yes, you got to get them there, but keep them there with engaging content.
I agree wholeheartedly, but I'm going to challenge you a little linguistically. I say, don't, it's to your point of like you're talking to one person. And I would even go so far as to say you're talking with one person. If you keep it very conversational, people are getting told stuff all the time. I mean, I log in, hey, don't do this. Hey, coaches, if you're not doing this, hey, we should be doing this. Like, it not only does it become noise, but it's also, I don't know about you, Ben, but I'm over here. I'm like, okay, don't tell me what to do. What do you think? And there's a little bit of that defensiveness that can come up in people. So if it's talking with someone conversationally, there was a study done. I think I've said this like 8 times. I read a lot. A bunch of years ago, that the brain doesn't necessarily understand the full difference between a FaceTime conversation and sitting down and having coffee with someone, right? Like it fires very similar parts in the brain. So having that conversational type tone, it's not going to work for everyone, right? Obviously, you're going to have people, health coaches, if you want to get on and be like, hey, if you're fat, come work with me. Like you'll get people, like there will be people that are like, thank you. I need somebody who's going to be real. But then there's going to be other people who are going to respond better to the, hey, if you're struggling with this, it's not your fault. I would love to have a conversation with you about it. So I agree wholeheartedly. I just think being able to talk with someone versus at someone seems small, but it can make such a big difference in how you approach your content.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting while we're talking about that, I want to, I agree, 100% agree with you. And that's exactly what I mean. From an ads perspective, I was telling you that the ads that do the best are the ones that are organic posts essentially. And here's what the ads basically are. It's, listen, if you're struggling with this, I understand what you're dealing with. This is probably what's happening with you. And they're diving into content. Like you're struggling with this, you're feeling this, you're frustrated with this, and it's because of this. And we get you, right? And this is what we're doing to help people get away from that, right? And so that's the conversation that they're having with them in the ads, with the organic. And what it's leading to is the higher quality, it's a higher intent lead. And so if you have clients, or this is to anyone who watches this, if you're struggling with poor quality people showing up for calls or people no showing on calls, if you're dealing with, broke people, it has a lot more to do with the creative, whether it's organic or paid, doesn't matter. It has more to do with the messaging that you're putting out there. So speak at a higher level. And when I mean higher, I don't mean like fancy words. I mean like at more of a deeper level, like what they're struggling with and what they have to do to overcome it. And don't be afraid to tell people what those steps are. And don't be afraid to tell people what's involved with your step-by-step process and how you help clients through it. Best thing to do in those posts, in those ads, use client case studies. I helped Joe, who was, going through this exact thing, and this is what he was struggling with. His testosterone levels were tested; they were so low, he just couldn't function. His brain fog. He was dealing with this, and he worked through our protocol, and we went through this process. And this is what we did with him. And we got his nutrition dialed in, his sleep dialed in, his stress management dialed in, and bam, he's lost this and he's done this. But it's a combination of trust and proof and behind the scenes and just having conversations with people about the reality of their situation that will stand the test of time. 100%.
Yeah. And I think there's a really important formula here that can be taken away to create that kind of content. And it's if think about your ideal client, right? Like your ideal avatar. If you're feeling pain point, pain point, pain point, and you want result, 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 here is how to fix it. Option, option, option. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that robotic, but if you kind of look at that general formula, that general flow, and you sit there and you say, I'm going to create my content all based around this. We're going to address the pain point. We're going to address the ideal outcome, and we're going to address how we get there. And you kind of focus and hone in your content around that formula. I think that's going to achieve exactly what you're already seeing work.
Yep. 100%.
So very something. Take nothing else away today. Take that. Well, cool, Ben. This was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for being here. I'm
My
so
pleasure.
excited and happy.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, I would love just to kind of close it out here. If you would go ahead and just give like another quick bite on Elite 360 and or Virtual CXO and how people can find you and who should work with you, any of that good stuff, just a little blurb. And then
Sure.
I'll
You can go straight to virtualcxo.io, not .com.io, or elite360.io, but virtualcxo.io has that on there. Typically, the virtual CXO is going to be more for established coaches, consultants, that have a team. They're looking for a fractional CMO or ops services that can come in and help kind of analyze what you have going on in your business, help design you a plan, and help you implement that plan with your team. If you're a little bit smaller, then elite360.io is a great service. It's just it's our white label of Go High Level, which is an amazing software. We just have an incredible support team. It's the system that I built. We also have some custom stuff in there. So feel free, either one of those are fine.
Awesome. Thank you. And I use both. I worked with Ben. I use Elite 360 in my business, and I highly recommend. So I'll link both of those in the description or the show notes. And then, of course, if you are just getting started in your journey or trying to get over an organic content plateau, I have just launched my 6-week program. It's very excited. I am very excited. It is implementation first. We get things moving right away. So I'll link that info down below as well. And honestly, just a huge thank you to Ben. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. We will see you next time.